So, Mr. Denver, as we can see, this slab is settled. Now we want to look at why it is settled. There are two types of soil that we're working with here. We have native soil that hasn't moved and has naturally compacted over time. And then we have backfilled soil that was brought in to give you the flat spot for your driveway to be poured. They compact backfill soil to a varying degree. The forms are put in place and then concrete is poured. Unfortunately, in residential circumstances, not a lot of compaction happens. When the soil isn't compacted enough and you park your SUV on it, what happens? That's right, it sinks. The other issue that can come up is the soil being overly dry. When the soil becomes overly dry, it shrinks and consolidates, leaving voids, and the concrete settles down into those voids. The other issue that can be is that it can become overly wet. The soil can become overly wet. We can get erosion and washout, and obviously when the water washes out from underneath the slab, it's going to leave voids. What do you think is going to happen? That's right, it's going to sink. Not good stability for concrete. So after looking at this information, what do you think the cause of your concrete issues are? Fair. So what are the options for repair? In the past, essentially there were two options: mud jacking or concrete replacement. Nowadays, those are historical options. Thanks to advances in science and technologies, there's now a third option, polyjacking, which we will need to discuss as well. So mud jacking, candidly, was the beginning of the right idea. They would core holes the size of a baseball, and unfortunately, they are huge holes, and pump what they call a slurry mix down into the soil and attempt to fill the voids and prevent the slab from being able to settle any further. There are a variety of issues with this, and as a result, very few contractors even attempt it. The main problem is the weight. When it comes to stabilization, the challenge with working with concrete that is too heavy for the existing soil. Well, that slurry mix with a combination of dirt, sawdust, Portland cement is incredibly heavy. If you add far more weight on the bottom of the slab, which was already settling, what do you think is going to happen? That's a good guess. It's going to sink again, and you're right on track. Correct. If we make the slab heavier, it's going to wind up sinking again and can actually sink more rapidly. The other thing with mud jacking is it's an absolute mess. I don't know if you can tell from the pictures, but we're going to have a slurry mix all over your driveway, and the holes are so large that they're going to visually create an eyesore as well. So because mud jacking doesn't work very well, a lot of homeowners thought, well, I'm going to do this the right way. I'll just rip everything out and replace it. And I can understand where people are coming from with that logic. However, there are several challenges in doing this. First, it's very expensive and invasive to do. We're talking about your driveway and potentially your garage, because we looked at that, and your front porch. So all of these have to be completely jackhammered out and removed, and everything that is resting on those slabs also has to be removed. Can't be, so you have to clear out your entire garage and arrange some of the form. I lost that one. We'll go back to that tomorrow. Next, when it comes into putting the concrete back, that can be done. That can't be done if it's raining. Concrete needs a certain amount of water, but it can't have more than that, or else it won't be able to cure. If it does, it will become weak and lose its tensile strength. I obviously did not read this first. If you put all that aside, the biggest issue you're going to have with concrete replacement is it hasn't addressed the underlying soil condition. The old soil was just as nice at one point. The issue wasn't the concrete, it was the soil that it was resting on. So if you don't do anything about the soil and we bring in a new driveway, in a matter of time, what do you think is going to happen? That's right, it's going to end up sinking again. We would be repeating the same process and expecting a different result. Doesn't make sense to me why either of those options would permanently solve the issue. Right, and candidly, no one that is looking for a long-term solution would. I just like to make that sure that we're on the same track and in the same page. The only option then that will provide the results you're looking for after will be some form of polyurethane injection. While the poly is a correct solution, poly can't be uninjected, meaning once it has left the gun, just like a bullet, you can't take it back. Poly expands in all directions, indiscriminatory, and unfortunately, when folks don't have a sufficient experience in it, this can result and create more of a mess than the original problem. Poly injection is much like an art form as it is a science. Experience and engineer review is critical in achieving a successful install. Can you see the importance of not only having the correct solution, but also having the experience and engineering backing on a project like this? Our engineering department did a really good job putting a clip together for you. He explains that this is a high level, so I'm going to let him go through this first, and then we'll do a deeper dive into what this will mean for us here at your home.
Uneven, settled, and cracked concrete slabs can be a major problem when left uncorrected. Ugly cracks, pooling water, and dangerous trip hazards are just some of the effects of sinking concrete. Concrete replacement is expensive, invasive, and doesn't address the real root of the problem, the soils under the slab. The soil moves under slabs for three principal reasons. First, soil settles due to poor compaction. During construction, fill soil is often used to even out the building site. Unfortunately, strict procedures on compaction are not always followed. Over time, as the weight of the concrete bears down on these soils, they begin to consolidate and are no longer able to support the weight of the slab above. The next issue is the erosion of the soil due to poor drainage. During rainy seasons, homes with drainage issues wind up channeling massive amounts of water under the concrete. Over time, this leads to the soils literally being washed away. And the third issue is the soil shrinking due to overdrying. During extended dry seasons, heat from the sun radiates through poured concrete and superheats the soils underneath. These heated soils dry out and actually shrink like modeling clay left out in the open. The dried soils create voids under the slab, and the heavy concrete settles into these voids. Your slab is at the mercy of these soils. When the soils underneath the slab settle, erode, or dry and shrink, your slab reacts by cracking and dropping. Obviously, doing nothing is not an option. So how do you fix this embarrassing and often dangerous situation? In the past, homeowners had two choices: mud jacking or total concrete replacement. Mud jacking is heavy, it doesn't last, and often washes out, is very messy to install, and doesn't fix the problem. Total concrete replacement is even more invasive, expensive, and most importantly, doesn't address the real issue: inadequate soil. The Settle Stop Poly Renewal System is a commercial-grade, expansive polyurethane foam that was designed to address all three of the issues causing your slab to fail. Here's how this system works. A small penny-sized hole is drilled through the slab and down to the soils underneath. The ports and injection equipment are set up, and the high-density polymer is injected under your slab. The two-part urethane goes in as a liquid, allowing it to find all cracks and crevices. Within seconds, it fills the voids as it expands, compressing the soil, then stabilizing and lifting the slab. The small holes are then filled with cement. Your slab is now permanently stabilized. In fact, your repaired concrete is immediately ready for use. It can even support interstate level traffic within 15 minutes of installation. Let the Settle Stop Poly Renewal System improve how your home looks, eliminate dangerous trip hazards, and restore your peace of mind.
Really cool stuff, isn't it? One of the coolest things for me is that you're able to watch it work. You will actually be able to see it lift your slab back into the original position in real time. I hope you can be home for the install. So to recap the installation process, we're going to come in and we're going to drill 5/8 penny size holes, which is about the size of my pinky, which will allow us to set up the injection equipment. While the crew will typically opt to do it in a grid pattern, the layout for the ports will be dependent on the location of the voids and the shape of the slab. Then, once it's been injected, the polyurethane acts as a thermal shield between the concrete and the soil, preventing the drying and shrinking of the soils below the polymer. It is hydrophobic, so water can't move through it, which prevents the washout and softening of the soils underneath the slab. And the coolest part, within 15 minutes, you're done. You'll be able to park your car on it and can refocus on the rest of your life and what's important to you. In addition to stabilizing the concrete, you'll also want to make sure that you don't get water seeping through the cracks in the slab, which can freeze and expand in the winter months, creating new cracks. So we come in and clear the joints and cracks. We use a grinder and define the cracks and give us enough room to install the joint sealant. The crack sealant, as you can see here, the really cool part, unlike the new concrete, it comes with a warranty. 5 years from now, if things has settled even more than anything more than a quarter of an inch, call us and let us know, and we'll come back out and reshoot it for free. Once it's done, it's done.